their voice was in my head saying, "That's a terrible shot. That's a terrible shot. That's a terrible shot." What I eventually figured out is that it's a great shot because it's Steph Curry.
There's a question Steve Kerr has never definitively answered in public, and yet it drifts through locker rooms, media rooms, and hardwood lore like a whisper. Who are your favorite 6 players, past or present, and why? Tonight, we'll step into that open loop. We'll imagine Kerr laying out his 6 top picks, the players whose impact on him is more than just statistical, more than just wins and losses. We'll explore not only who they might be, but why they resonate at the level of personal myth and professional respect. This is not just a greatest of all time list. It's about influence. It's about character. It's about the way a player molds coaching philosophy, craft, and the emotional architecture of a team. As Kerr once said, "I do think I have a good feel for what wins. I think it's a combination of competitiveness and joy in others' success." That sense of joy and respect for others is the guiding star through the picks that follow. In this video, you will hear not only about the players, but about Kerr's relationship with them, direct and indirect, and the moments that define why they made his inner pantheon. The loop stays open until the end. There might just be surprises. So, take your seat. The first name is one you might already suspect. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this journey through Steve Kerr's 6 baseball icons. When Steve Kerr reflects on the most influential players in his life, the conversation inevitably begins with Michael Jordan. To Kerr, Jordan wasn't just a teammate on those championship Bulls teams. He was the ultimate test of resilience, courage, and character. Kerr's first impressions of Jordan were almost overwhelming. As a young player trying to establish himself in the NBA, watching Jordan dominate every possession was both inspiring and intimidating. Kerr has admitted that in those early years, he sometimes wondered if he even belonged on the same floor. But that sense of doubt became fuel. It pushed him to sharpen his mind, his preparation, and his competitive edge. Their relationship wasn't without friction. In fact, one of the defining moments came in practice, when Jordan famously punched Kerr after a heated exchange. Instead of fracturing their bond, it solidified it. Kerr has often said that standing up to Jordan earned him respect, and that incident changed the way Jordan viewed him. From then on, Kerr was no longer just another role player. He was someone Jordan could trust when the pressure mounted. That trust revealed itself most clearly in the 1997 NBA Finals. With the game hanging in the balance, everyone expected Jordan to take the final shot. But in the huddle, Jordan told Kerr to be ready. Moments later, Kerr hit the jumper that sealed Chicago's 5th championship. It was a defining snapshot of their partnership. Jordan's gravity drew defenders, and Kerr's poise delivered the kill shot. The celebration that followed wasn't just about a made basket. It was about Jordan recognizing Kerr's toughness, and Kerr rising to meet the moment. More than anything, what Kerr absorbed from Jordan was fearlessness. Jordan set impossible standards and demanded that his teammates rise to them. He was relentless, uncompromising, and often harsh. But through that intensity, Kerr learned how greatness is forged. Years later, as a coach, Kerr would emphasize joy, teamwork, and communication. But beneath all of it lies a core lesson from Jordan: the courage to compete without hesitation. For Kerr, Michael Jordan is not simply one of his favorite players. He is the player who defined the very framework of how Kerr understands winning. After Jordan, it might seem like the next name should be another fiery competitor, someone who mirrored that relentless edge. But Steve Kerr's second choice couldn't be more different. If Jordan embodied ferocity, Tim Duncan embodied calm. And it was Duncan's presence in San Antonio that gave Kerr an entirely new lens through which to understand greatness. When Kerr joined the Spurs in the late 1990s, Duncan was still young, but already the cornerstone of the franchise. Unlike Jordan, Duncan didn't need to bark at teammates or dominate the spotlight. His leadership came in silence, in small gestures, in doing the little things right every single time. Kerr has often said that Duncan's humility was the foundation of San Antonio's dynasty, a model of quiet accountability that spread through the entire roster. For Kerr, who had just come from the fire of Chicago, it was like stepping into another world. Jordan demanded excellence through confrontation. Duncan demanded it through consistency. Practices were intense, yes, but the tone was different. The team played hard because Duncan set the standard, not because they feared being torn apart. Kerr has explained that Duncan never worried about stats or recognition. He worried about making the right play. That attitude seeped into everyone else, creating an environment where role players thrived and stars coexisted without ego. There's a story Kerr likes to share. After a win, reporters would swarm Duncan to talk about his performance. Duncan, without fail, redirected the praise to teammates. It wasn't false modesty, it was genuine belief that basketball was about the collective, not the individual. To Kerr, that was revolutionary. After seeing greatness defined by dominance in Chicago, he now saw greatness defined by humility in San Antonio. Years later, as a coach with the Warriors, Kerr would blend those two lessons. From Jordan, the fire. From Duncan, the calm. And when you watch the Warriors celebrate each other's success, Steph Curry deferring shots, Draymond Green facilitating, Klay Thompson staying patient, you can hear echoes of Duncan's philosophy. So, if Jordan taught Kerr about fearlessness, Duncan taught him about selflessness. Together, they formed the first two pillars of Kerr's basketball compass: play without fear and play for each other. If Michael Jordan defined the 1990s and Tim Duncan carried the torch into the 2000s, then Stephen Curry represents the future, a player who reshaped the very geometry of basketball. For Steve Kerr, choosing Curry as one of his 6 favorites is obvious, but not because of trophies or highlight reels. It's because Kerr has had the privilege of coaching, learning from, and being inspired daily by Curry's unique blend of skill and humanity. When Kerr took over as head coach of the Warriors in 2014, he inherited a team that already had Curry, but few could have predicted the seismic shift that was about to happen. What struck Kerr immediately wasn't just Curry's shooting ability, although the range was unlike anything basketball had ever seen. It was his unselfishness. He was a superstar willing to give up the ball, run through endless screens, and create space for teammates. Kerr has often said that Curry's selflessness is the engine of the Warriors' dynasty. By playing with joy and humility, he gave permission for everyone else to do the same. But joy alone doesn't win championships. Curry's work ethic stunned even Kerr, a man who had seen Jordan's ferocity and Duncan's discipline. Day after day, Curry drilled impossible shots until they became routine. Kerr has described how Curry makes the extraordinary look ordinary, and how his fearlessness in taking shots from 30 feet out shifted the boundaries of what coaches believed was possible. He changed the game isn't a cliche here. It's a lived truth Kerr has watched unfold in real time. One of the moments that cemented Curry's place in Kerr's heart came in the 2015 finals. Curry's scoring was crucial, but what Kerr remembers most is how Steph embraced Andre Iguodala, stepping into the spotlight and winning Finals MVP. There was no jealousy, no frustration, only genuine happiness for a teammate. That, for Kerr, was Duncan's spirit reborn, fused with Jordan's competitive fire. For Kerr, Curry isn't just a player he coaches. He's a daily reminder of why basketball matters: joy, teamwork, creativity, and the courage to challenge convention. Curry is proof that greatness can come with a smile, and Kerr has built his modern philosophy around that truth. After celebrating Stephen Curry's joyful revolution, Steve Kerr's list naturally turns to another guard who redefined what a floor general could be: Steve Nash. For Kerr, Nash represents not only artistry with the basketball, but also resilience, leadership, and a relentless work ethic that mirrors many of the values Kerr now prizes as a coach. Kerr's respect for Nash grew long before their careers overlapped in the NBA's inner circles. As a player, Nash wasn't supposed to be a 2-time MVP. He wasn't the fastest, the tallest, or the most athletic guard. What made him extraordinary was his vision, his skill, and his belief in making the players around him better. Kerr has often spoken about his admiration for how Nash controlled tempo. He was, in Kerr's words, a conductor, orchestrating every possession like a symphony. But toughness, that's the trait Kerr singles out most. Nash wasn't loud or demonstrative. But he absorbed punishment with remarkable calm. Who could forget the 2007 playoffs, when his nose was broken, blood pouring down his face, yet he kept attacking? Kerr points to moments like that as proof that toughness doesn't always come with shouting or bravado. Sometimes it's about refusing to be rattled, no matter the obstacle. Kerr also valued Nash's creativity. Much like Curry, later, Nash gave his teams freedom to play with flow. His pick-and-roll artistry with Amari Stoudemire in Phoenix reshaped offensive spacing in the mid-2000s, paving the way for the modern NBA's emphasis on spread pick-and-rolls and three-point shooting. Kerr would carry that influence into his own coaching philosophy with Golden State, blending Nash's improvisational freedom with Curry's shooting gravity. Their relationship also grew off the court. Nash's humility and intellectual curiosity made him more than just a basketball peer. He was someone Kerr respected as a thinker. Years later, when Nash moved into coaching, Kerr publicly supported him, noting that Nash's communication skills and emotional intelligence were every bit as valuable as his basketball mind. For Kerr, Steve Nash symbolizes the lesson that greatness is not always about physical gifts. It can come from toughness, creativity, and the ability to make five players move as one. Nash wasn't just a point guard, he was proof that basketball at its highest level is art.
Hey, I'm so proud of you, man. You had such a great year. Amazing.
The first time Steve Kerr truly understood Draymond Green's value wasn't during a practice or even a playoff run. It was in a film session. Kerr remembers watching Draymond call out every opponent's action before it happened, almost like he was reading the other team's playbook in real time. In that moment, Kerr realized he had something rare, a player who could see the game one step ahead, who could coach from the floor while still throwing his body into the battle. Draymond isn't easy. Kerr would be the first to admit that. There have been shouting matches on the sideline, arguments behind closed doors, moments where Draymond's fire has threatened to burn too hot. But Kerr has always insisted that this volatility is not a weakness. It's part of what makes him indispensable. He gives us our edge, Kerr has said more than once, and that edge is what separates the Warriors from so many other talented teams. What makes Green fascinating is that his greatness isn't obvious in a box score. He doesn't dominate with points, he dominates with presence. He guards every position, quarterbacks the defense, initiates offense like a point guard trapped in a forward's body. Kerr often compares his value to the hidden gears of a machine. You don't always see them, but without them, nothing works. And then there's the loyalty. Draymond may bark at teammates, but he'll also defend them without hesitation. Whether it's backing up Steph Curry in a heated exchange, or standing up for Klay Thompson when doubted by critics, Green's protective instinct is something Kerr deeply admires. It's messy, it's emotional, but it's authentic. And authenticity in Kerr's eyes is a rare commodity in professional sports. For Kerr, Draymond represents the lesson that leadership doesn't have to be polished. It can be raw, imperfect, even confrontational. What matters is commitment, and Draymond's commitment to winning and to his teammates has never wavered. If Jordan was the standard, Duncan the model of humility, Curry the joyful revolutionary, and Nash the creative maestro, then Draymond Green is the fire, the player who reminds Kerr that sometimes you need a spark, even if it occasionally scorches. Before Kerr was an NBA champion, before he was a coach, before the rings and the press conferences, there was a young guard at the University of Arizona searching for direction. And standing at the center of that journey was head coach Lute Olson. While the previous names on Kerr's list are legends of the NBA, it's Olson, his college coach and lifelong mentor, who holds a unique place among Kerr's favorites. Kerr's time at Arizona wasn't just about learning basketball, it was about growth, discipline, resilience. Olson recruited Kerr when few others believed in him, offering not just a spot on the team, but confidence in his ability to lead. For a kid who had endured the tragedy of losing his father, Olson's guidance went far beyond the court. He became a steady figure, equal parts demanding and supportive, teaching Kerr how to carry himself with poise through adversity. The lessons were simple but profound. Preparation matters, character matters, trust is earned every day. Olsen wasn't the type to sugarcoat mistakes, but he also never stopped believing in his players. Kerr has often reflected that the culture of Olsen built in Tucson, one of accountability and family, became a blueprint for how he would later run the Warriors. There's one story Kerr loves to tell. After hitting a game-winning shot in college, Kerr expected Olsen to celebrate. Instead, Olsen simply nodded and reminded him to get ready for the next play. That moment captured Olsen perfectly. Never too high, never too low, always focused on the process rather than the momentary glory. Even decades later, Kerr speaks about Olsen with reverence. When Olsen passed away in 2020, Kerr described him as one of the most important people in my life, crediting him for shaping his career and for helping him become the kind of leader who values trust, joy, and resilience above all else. In naming Olsen among his favorites, Kerr reminded us that the foundation of greatness isn't always built under bright NBA lights. Sometimes it's built in quiet gyms, with a mentor who sees more in you than you see in yourself. Michael Jordan, Tim Duncan, Stephen Curry, Steve Nash, Draymond Green, Lute Olsen. 6 names that shape Steve Kerr's journey, not just as a player or a coach, but as a leader and as a person. From Jordan, he learned fearlessness. From Duncan, humility. From Curry, joy. From Nash, creativity and toughness. From Draymond, raw passion. And from Olsen, the steady hand of mentorship. Together they form a mosaic of lessons that define what Kerr values most: competitiveness, trust, and joy in the game. What makes this list powerful is that it isn't about statistics or highlight reels. It's about influence, the people who push us, challenge us, and inspire us to be more than we thought possible. Kerr's 6 favorites remind us that greatness comes in many forms, and that true success is built on the shoulders of those who shape us along the way. Thanks for joining us on this journey through Steve Kerr's basketball icons. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next deep dive into the moments and people that define sports. And now we want to hear from you. Who would be on your list of 6 favorite players and why? Drop your answers in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going.